"Turn in now," he remarked. "We'll go fishing in the morning if you will plan to stop over. Take this to your room. If you are not sleepy, it is worth running over." Bligh's account of the voyage of the Bounty, published at Dublin in 1792. Propped up in bed with a lamp burning on the table beside me, I opened Bligh's quaint and earnest account of his voyage, the mutiny, the commander's passage in an open boat from Tonga to Timor, and the settlement of the mutineers on Pitcairn Island. I have been made familiar by a voluminous and sentimental literature, but I had never before come across the story of Bligh's residence among the natives of Tahiti 132 years ago. More than any other eastern island, perhaps Tahiti was the cradle of the oceanic race, called the Lap of God by Kamakaki, the fabled Hawaiian voyager who discovered in the southern group the fountain of eternal youth. Knowing something of the island as it is today, I listened with interest when Tari remarked, "Civilization has barely scratched the inner life of Tahiti." Bligh was a close observer, blessed with insight and a pleasant sense of humor. At the time of his visit the people were untouched by European influence. It is interesting to check his observation against what any traveler may see nowadays, to judge for oneself how deeply the civilization of Europe has been able to modify the peculiarities of Polynesian character. The family of Pomare, of which the chief two, called Utu by Cook, Tinah by Bligh, was the founder, owed its rise to power largely to the friendship of the English. Bligh often entertained Tinah and his wife, Idea, on board the Bounty. They must have been amusing parties. Tinah was fed by one of his attendants, who sat by him for that purpose, and I must do him the justice to say he kept his attendant constantly employed. There was indeed little reason to complain of want of appetite to any of my guests, as the women are not allowed to eat in the presence of the men. Idea dined with some of her companions about an hour afterward in private, except that her husband, Tinah, favored them with his company and seemed to have entirely forgotten that he had already dined. In his rambles about the island, Bligh noticed precisely what strikes one today. In any house we wished to enter, we always experienced a kind reception, and without officiousness. The Otaheiteans have the most perfect easiness of manners, equally free from forwardness and formality. When they offer refreshments, if they are not accepted, they do not think of offering them the second time, for they have not the least idea of the ceremonious kind of refusal which expects a second invitation. Bligh was not deceived like the French philosophers who read Bougainville's account of Tahiti and rhapsodized about the beauty of a life free from all restraint. He remarked the deep-rooted system of class inherent in the island race, a system of which the outward marks are gone, but which is far from dead today. Among people so free from ostentation as the Otaheitans, and the manners are so simple and natural, the strictness with which the punctilios of rank are observed is surprising. I know not if any action, however meritorious, can elevate a man above the class in which he was born, unless he were to acquire sufficient power to confer dignity on himself. If any woman of the inferior classes has a child by an Faery, it is not suffered to live. Bligh's observation on the gay and humorous character of the people and their extraordinary levity might have been written yesterday. Some of my constant visitors had observed that we always drank his Majesty's health as soon as the cloth was removed, but they were by this time become so fond of wine that they would frequently remind me of the health of the middle by dinner by calling out, "King George Erie, no Brittany," and would banter me if the glass was not filled to the brim. Nothing could exceed the mirth and jollity of these people when they met on board. One day Tinah told Bligh of an island to the eastward of a 4 or 5 days' sail, and that there were large animals upon it with 8 legs. The truth of this account he very strenuously insisted upon, and wished me to go thither with him. As I was at a loss to know whether or not, Tinah himself gave credit to this whimsical and fabulous account. For though they have credulity sufficient to believe anything, however improbable, they are at the same time so much addicted to the species of wit which we call humbug that it is frequently difficult to distinguish whether they are in jest or in earnest. On another occasion, while walking near a place of burial, Bligh was surprised by a sudden outcry of grief. As I expressed a desire to see the distressed person, Tina took me to the place, where I found a number of women, one of whom was the mother of a young female child that lay dead. On seeing us, their mourning not only immediately ceased, but, to my astonishment, they all burst into an immoderate fit of laughter, and while we remained, appeared much diverted at our visit. I told Tina the woman had no sorrow for her child, otherwise her grief would not have so easily subsided, on which he jocosely told her to cry again. They did not, however, resume their mourning in our presence. This strange behavior would incline us to think them hard-hearted and unfeeling, did we not know that they are fond parents, in general very affectionate. It is therefore to be ascribed to their extreme levity of disposition, and it is probable that death does not appear to them with so many terrors as it does to people of a more serious cast. When the surgeon of the Bounty died and was buried ashore, some of the chiefs were very inquisitive about what was to be done with the surgeon's cabin, on account of apparitions. They said when a man died in Otaheite, and was carried over to the Tupapow, that as soon as night came he was surrounded by spirits, and if any person went there by himself, they would devour him. Therefore, they said, not less than 2 people together should go into the surgeon's cabin for some time. I thought of Tari and his tales of Faery. 4 generations of schools and churches have failed to work a metamorphosis. I read on till drowsiness overcame me and the pages blurred before my eyes. It was late, and the night was very calm. A vagrant night breeze, wandering down from the mountains, rustled gently among the fronds of the old palms around the house. When the rustling ceased, so faint as to be almost inaudible, I could hear the far-off whisper of the sea. The world about me was asleep. I roused myself with an effort, adjusted the mosquito net, and blew out the lamp. End of chapter 13.